Hey, it's Mina, and this is my annual Christmas video. This is going to be a long and nerdy video, so maybe take a second and grab a snack or some tea. I will be recreating some cozy holiday food moments from different famous TV shows. Even if you haven't seen any of these, no worries. I won't be spoiling the entire episodes. I'm just gonna try and give you some context, summarizing key plot points, and maybe inserting some fun facts. If you have a second, click thumbs up, and now let's get into these episodes. Out of all the shows that we're going to get into today, Gilmore Girls is by far the most food-centric. I chose episode 10 of season 3 here. This episode features the Stars Hollow Winter Carnival, Lorelai's grandmother, Lorelai, Jess being pretty awful and dismissive to Rory, Dean hoping to still be friends with Rory, and the three of them, plus Dean's little sister, all awkwardly going to the carnival together.
They only had cherry.
Oh, that's all we need.
So you play any of the games yet?
No, I've been watching him lose. You don't get a bear, but it's still pretty fun.
At said carnival, Rory's having a cherry-flavored Snowcone, and earlier in the episode, when Rory and Dean have their little "Can we still be friends" coffee, they share a piece of custard pie. First, I preheated my oven to 180 degrees Celsius. Then I took a major shortcut by using store-bought pie crust for a change, but if you want to make your own, I'll have some recipes linked down below for that. I'm using a 23cm 9-inch pie tin here and cutting the dough alongside the edges of the tin. I'm remembering at the last second to put a cutting board underneath. The leftovers you can use to make little cookies out of. Here I'm lightly greasing the tin with a bit of vegetable oil, and then I'm placing the dough inside and sort of crimping the edges. First, you gotta blind bake, and that means you place some parchment paper directly onto the dough, and then you add your chosen pie weight. I went for popcorn kernels, which I believe popcorn is also mentioned briefly in this episode. Bake this for 10 minutes. Is it a bad sign for the parchment paper to turn brown like that? On the packaging it says you can bake it! Okay, nothing burned in the end, but I guess I would still recommend cutting off any overlapping paper. Anyway, as the crust is baking, make the filling. Place all the ingredients for the custard into a medium pot, the heat of the stovetop still being turned off. Mix well using a whisk, and once it's smooth, you bring everything up to a quick boil. Then reduce the heat to a simmer and let everything cook on medium to medium low for about 5 minutes or until the consistency looks like this. Now remove the paper and pie weight, replacing that with the custard filling. Smooth out the top, and then bake the pie for another 20 to 25 minutes or until the filling starts to bubble like this and the edges turn into a nice golden brown. Allow the pie to cool completely. Meanwhile, I got started on the snow cone. So in a medium pot, I placed cherry juice and sugar, and I gave that a quick mix, brought everything up to a quick boil. Then I reduced the heat to medium-low and allowed this to simmer for 25-ish minutes. Then you transfer the liquid to a heat-proof jar and let it cool completely. I actually let both of these things cool overnight. The pie that they're eating here has 2 layers. I, for the life of me, could not find vegan whipped cream anywhere, and so I had to improvise and go with vegan sour cream plus agave syrup. Now this cream is going to firm up nicely in the fridge if you let it sit in there for at least 4 hours. I was impatient and only gave it 30 to 45 minutes in the freezer. So it wasn't super firm yet. However, flavor-wise, I think I prefer this over whipped cream because it's not as sweet, It's a little more tart, pun intended. Coffee gets an insane amount of screen time in the show, so naturally I had to make some here. Last but not least, it's time to put together the cherry snow cone. This is super easy to make. I'm just adding crushed ice to my blender, blending this until the ice looks like thick snow, and adding a few tablespoons of the cherry syrup on top. That is it. Moving on to Gossip Girl, which surprisingly only has 2 Christmas holiday episodes. Fun fact, I've never seen the final 2 seasons of this show because a friend of mine accidentally told me who Gossip Girl was. In her defense, the show had been out and wrapped up at that point for 7 years, so I should probably just get over it and watch the rest. Anyway, back to season 1 for now, episode 11. This one revolves around Serena trying to find the perfect Christmas gift for Dan, Blair resenting her father's new boyfriend, and a tense Christmas celebration at the Humphrey house, or as Mike likes to call it, the Humphrey Poverty Loft. Anyway, for this episode, I'm going to be recreating Rufus's Christmas special.
Do I smell chocolate chip waffles?
With hot caramel sauce.
Your father's Christmas specialty. Dan, pass the chocolate chips.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Grease your waffle iron. Do both sides and really make sure to get into all crevices here. In a large mixing bowl, place all the wet ingredients for the waffle batter. Mix, and then add in all the dry ingredients. Mix. As a last step, fold in the chocolate chips. Preheat the waffle iron, and once it's hot and ready, add enough batter for 1 waffle. And the baking time, of course, will also differ depending on what type of machine you're using. Definitely make sure to grease the iron in between each waffle though. And if you haven't bought a waffle iron yet, I would highly recommend to buy one where you can take out the plates. Mine does not do that, and cleaning it is actual torture. The best part of this recipe, in my opinion, is the caramel sauce. It's way easier to make than regular caramel, and it's also a whole lot more nutritious. In a small to medium bowl, simply combine cashew butter, agave or maple syrup, white miso paste, vanilla, and a splash of hot water. I decided to serve this with some tea, which we see, I was just about to call him Dan and Jenny drink something that looks like barely steeped herbal tea. The combination of chocolate chip waffles and caramel sauce is, unsurprisingly, pretty amazing. Can't believe I've never had those 2 things together. And since I also put a little bit of cinnamon into the batter, it gives everything a Christmassy, gingerbread sort of feel. So this next episode is what made me want to film this video in the first place.
And Hilda Ambrose, the Christmas tree looks great, you guys.
Sabrina, I wish you wouldn't call it that. It's a Yule tree.
Christmas isn't a bad Zeld. Plus, also, for someone who doesn't believe in it, you have got yourself quite a few presents.
Those are not for me, Hilda. Those are for baby Letitia. Imagine a baby in the house just in time for the winter holidays.
For some reason, I'm a huge fan of spooky Christmas as a storytelling theme. I mean, just a few years ago, I did a recipe on the Christmas horror movie Krampus. Genuinely one of my favorite films to this day. Anyway, I know at some point this show goes completely off the rails, but I do believe the first 2 seasons are pretty amazing. And this episode in particular just really captures this eerie yet cozy vibe that I really enjoy. Throughout this episode, we see so many beautiful looking treats used to decorate different scenes. We can assume that Sabrina's aunt Hilda made these. We also see this gingerbread house or mansion at one point. Definitely out of my league when it comes to food decoration skills, but definitely still deserves a mention. I ended up choosing something much more easy to make.
What's that?
Some special eggnog I made for Harvey's dad using your secret recipe.
Ooh.
1 cup of this, and Mr. Kinkle will never want alcohol again. Can't help my mom, but I can help him and Harvey at least.
Where did you find my secret recipe?
I've been meaning to make my own vegan eggnog for a while, so this was the perfect excuse to try it. It turned out so well, and it can be made with or without alcohol. Grab a medium-sized saucepan and add all the listed ingredients. Oat milk, a vegan cream. I would recommend soy. You could go for cashew or oat instead, or coconut if you don't mind coconut. Vanilla, a pinch of salt, cinnamon. Optionally, some whole cardamom. Agave syrup, then you can already bring this up to a quick boil. Be careful though. Allow the milk to simmer on medium-low while you cut up an orange. No, actually, half an orange is more than enough. I cut up the whole thing because that's what we see briefly in the show. We also see Hilda cutting up an apple, and so I figured those two fruits could be what made her eggnog recipe so special. So add a few orange and apple slices to the milk and let everything simmer on low for 10 to 15 minutes, with the lid partially on top. Remove the cardamom pods and the fruit and pour everything through a fine strainer directly into a large heat-proof jar. Now you decide if you want to make this alcoholic or not. If yes, then add any of these spirits to the jar. However, I knew I wasn't going to have use for this much of an alcoholic drink. So just to try it, I added vodka to the mug. And this gives you a very cozy Christmas market type cocktail. But in the end, I realized that I do prefer it iced actually, and without any spirit at all. To me, this tastes like Christmassy cereal milk. It is so nice, and this is the alcohol-free version. It's really sweet, but not too sweet. When I asked you guys over on Instagram which TV episode to cover in this video, a large group of you said Abbott's Uncontrollable Christmas. As a teenager, I was obsessed with Community. This show, usually not in stop motion, is so incredibly creative and campy. Revisiting this episode here really makes me want to go back and do a big rewatch and see if it still holds up. Because I do remember some strange plot lines. But anyway, season 2, episode 11 is told from Abbott's perspective, who for mysterious reasons sees everything in this stop motion claymation style. The episode asks the question, what is the meaning behind Christmas? And it also explores the very relatable reality of sometimes being really sad at Christmas and actually dreading the holidays. Minor spoiler alert, Abbott ends up realizing that while Christmas used to be about being with his related family, it now means being with his friends, his chosen family. And I think that's really sweet. Just as sweet as these cookies that I made here. That was such a stretch. But yeah, we see gingerbread cookies appear here and there in this episode and also in the post-credit scene.
We're stop motion again.
Oh, don't worry, man. I did this.
You did?
Yeah, it's cool.
Huh. Why?
Well, I always liked the way fake food looked on those animated shows. I mean, get a load of these things. They're really stepped up a notch in terms of visual deliciousness.
I know what you mean. Look at that perfect bite.
To a small bowl, add ground flax seeds plus water, and set that aside for about 5 minutes. Then to a large mixing bowl, add vegan butter at room temperature that you roughly chop into cubes. Add some vanilla and sugar and some molasses, which I couldn't find molasses, and so I went with date syrup instead, which does have a similar texture and flavor. Using a hand mixer, mix this until light and fluffy. Add in the flax egg and mix again. Next, add in flour, baking powder, cinnamon, and other gingerbread type spices, also salt. Give it another mix. Lastly, adjust the consistency with a couple tablespoons of non-dairy milk. Less milk is more because as you bring the dough together using your hands, the dough will get really nice and malleable. There's this quote-unquote life hack, and I wanted to try it, and it's basically about pre-rolling the dough before you chill it. And so I'm rolling this out on a piece of parchment paper using some additional flour to make sure nothing sticks. Then I added a second piece of paper. I transferred everything to a baking sheet, put on a plate to hold the paper in place, and then I put this into the fridge overnight. It's the next morning now, and I'm listening to the Ariana Grande Christmas and Chill album. Anyway, I'm drawing some cookie cutter outlines here because I needed a Santa face, a snowman, and a Christmas tree. I'm honestly not 100% sold on this pre-rolling technique. My first batch of cookies I made using the pre-rolled sheet, and those turned out the messiest. So I think I would actually recommend you roll the dough into a ball as you would normally with cookie dough. I'm using my little paper cutouts to create the cookies. And then I bake the cookies for 10 to 12 minutes. This recipe makes enough for 2 to 3 sheets, so you just roll out the scraps and continue. Even if they look a bit rustic in the end, it's fine because we're going to cover them in royal icing. In a large mixing bowl, place a few tablespoons of aquafaba. Also add vinegar, and then you whip this up using a hand mixer until frothy. Next, you add in some non-grainy powdered sugar. Add the sugar in 2 to 3 stages and keep mixing until it's smooth. Now on to adding some color. I needed red and green, and I also made some orange later on. This has to be the best cookie icing I've ever made. It's so incredibly easy to work with. Let these sit and rest for a few hours at least on your counter. During that time, the frosting will harden and the colors will intensify. I was a bit worried about these tasting too sweet, but I did try them later on off camera and they were actually perfectly sweet. Maybe it's because the cookie dough tastes a bit spicy due to all the ginger. You're a pink pony girl. So you don't have to worry about these only looking good. On to the last show for today. The Office. Almost every season has a Christmas episode, one more chaotic than the next. Despite that, it was a bit difficult to narrow down what recipe to make, since food isn't always at the center of these episodes. Alcohol, however, certainly is.
This is Christmas spirit, as in spirits, booze.
I decided to take a closer look at Season 3, Episode 10, Benihana Christmas. Michael gets broken up with in front of everybody, and so to cheer him up, Andy decides to take him to Benihana, an American Asian-style food chain I had never heard of before. According to both my Californian friend Emily and this Business Insider article, it's really not that great, apparently, allegedly. I tried my best to figure out what they're eating, but it seems to be grilled zucchini, onion and chicken, rice, some type of garden salad, and some of them also have shrimp. First, I cut a zucchini into thick strips, pan frying those in some vegetable oil at high heat for about 5 minutes. Obviously, I don't have a big Japanese grill, so this is the closest thing I could do. Next, I cut a large onion into thick rings. Now, at Benihana, they stack the onion on the grill, and then somehow the steam comes out the top. I do not know how to do this exactly, and so I just cook the onion normally for about 10 minutes over medium heat. And then to replace the chicken, I went with this tofu. Letting that cook for 6 to 8 minutes. In the meantime, inside a small mug, I'm mixing together soy sauce, sesame oil, agave syrup, and white wine vinegar. I'm adding the cooked veggies back into the pan, pouring the sauce over everything. I'm giving this another 2 to 3 minutes, and then that's pretty much it. I am, of course, serving this with some cooked rice, some store-bought salad mix that I did not add any dressing to. Now, I paired my meal with a frozen margarita adjacent drink because the other plotline of this episode is about hosting a margarita karaoke party. My personal highlight being Kevin singing Alanis Morissette.
And I'm here to remind you of the mess you left when you went away. It's not fair to deny me of the cross I bear that you give to me. You ought to know.
I know this looks like a margarita, but again, I made this with what I had. I did not have tequila. I went with Bacardi. I don't know if those two are related or not, but anyway, I added that. Also, the juice of 2 limes. Some orange peel, which is to replace orange liqueur, agave syrup, and crushed ice. Now I'm pouring some salt onto a little plate.
How do you... Ooh, I'm a professional. Oh my god.
And there we go.
This is the perfect Christmas meal.
If anybody makes this for Christmas, I need to see pictures, actually. Thank you so much for watching this video. This was so much fun to make. And if you want me to keep making more videos like this one, please engage with this video. Give it a like, a little comment maybe. For example, let me know what are some other iconic TV episodes that you go back to rewatch every year. I hope you have lovely holidays, or at least a few relaxed, chill days. I'll talk to you soon. Bye!